Welcome to another episode of 360. I'm Mohammed Noor in here in our Vision Studio, Kuala Lumpur. We have a special guest from Fortify Rights, John Quinley, a human rights specialist. So we will talk about a couple of things today. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mohammed Noor.
Thank you. So let's talk about your experience in Bangladesh camp, because the situation in Bangladesh camp is getting worse in terms of sanitation, in terms of food and water and so on. So share your experience with us.
Yeah, I mean, as you know really well, the situation in Bangladesh is really dire. You know, service providers are still having a hard time giving people food, medicine. One of the biggest worries that Fortify Rights has is the access to education, formalized access to education in the camps. We're talking about a whole generation that's not getting proper education. You know, these are children and youth, and they don't have a lot to do in the camps. And Bangladesh and Sheikh Hasina should let them get access to education.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, food is one problem, but ultimately, education is something that's going to protect the generation in the future. What are the current, what are the organizations that are looking into the education, and what are the problems they're facing, and how do we enhance this section?
Yeah, I mean, there's different kind of organizations, international organizations providing access to education in the camps. On a kind of a small scale, there's a lot of what they call child safe zones or child centers. These are kind of more like play areas. They're not actually meant for kind of good education for a high school or leading into college. And so Bangladesh should be able to give the Rohingya opportunity to be able to access universities, be able to access high schools, be able to build their own schools in the camps, be able to learn languages like the Burmese curriculum, Bangladeshi curriculum. This should be provided in the camps readily.
Yeah, but I mean, recent news is also talking about not to learn the Bangladeshi curriculums and so on. Yeah. Just really sorry to hear that. But at the same time, I think international organizations, those who involve in the education, should really focus on providing more centers where there's a pipeline kind of things that where a student can go in not only for just a couple of years, but all the way to like a degree, that kind of things. Yeah, so
I totally agree.
Yeah, so now let's talk about the people and Rohingya in the camps, the repatriation, whether voluntary or forced repatriation, or I mean, do you think it's safe, or do you think it's now necessary to do that kind of repatriation process?
Yeah. I think repatriation at this time is totally premature. The situation in Rakhine State, as the fact-finding mission said, as you know, is an ongoing genocide. There's still atrocities taking place. People do not have citizenship. There's still, fighting going on. There's no access to freedom of movement, education, healthcare for Rohingya. They don't want to go back. So Bangladesh and the governments in the region should be thinking about long-term solutions for the Rohingya. Repatriation at this time would be kind of like refoulement, forced relocation.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why, I mean, if you really talk about the long, then we have to talk about the Bashar Shaw. Yeah. So where the island, the floating island, where it's get flooded whole of the year, but there's a huge planning going on. The setup has been set there for relocating. UNHCR is endorsing it. So how do you look at it?
Yeah, I mean, Bhasan Char is a bad idea. It's an ill-conceived plan. The UN SR Yankee Lee has said that she's worried about the conditions on the island. Fortify Rights is also worried. There's no freedom of movement on the island. It's isolated. It's flood-prone. The situation could become really bad. And I think also UNHCR and the Bangladeshi government have not consulted the refugee population. They haven't gone to the communities, gone to the camps and really talked to them about what they want as a community. And that needs to be the first thing that they do.
But I mean, there is a lot of talk within the community going on. They do not want to go. So do you think is going to be like a forced kind of placement?
Yeah. The Bangladeshi government says right now that the relocation will not be forced, but we're fearful that any kind of stance besides adamantly opposing it could lead to, kind of a coercion technique that could happen. And we saw this with the repatriation process in November. We saw that people were getting maybe coerced a little bit into trying to go. at times by Bangladeshi authorities. But Bangladesh has done an amazing job bringing in over 1 million Rohingya people, and we just believe that they should continue to provide access and protection for them.
It's commendable for Bangladesh to have, even though they have their own limited resources with the limited land, they're allowing access more than 1 million people now living, using their resources and so on. But at the same time, Bashensor, as you said, is a bad idea. But what could be an alternative solution to Bangladesh as well?
Yeah, I mean, there is other places in Bangladesh, in the Cox's Bazar region, that they could get people to move to. IOM, UNHCR should be working with the Bangladeshi government to be able to create safe spaces, that are not hazardous for people to live on. There's other options. You can provide refugees with more freedom of movement to live in other locations with host communities. We should get creative about the ways that we think about relocation, but Basanchar is not one of them, I don't think.
Thank you very much. That's what we have today. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you, Ramanar. It's been very good.
Thank you.